Richard Madeley reveals the 2-week test that proved Judy was the one. Former Good Morning Britain host Richard Madeley has revealed the 2-week act he undertook in the lead-up to his marriage to co-presenter Judy Finnegan. Richard Madeley and Judy Finnegan have been married for almost 4 decades after meeting at Granada Television in Manchester. Since then, they've welcomed 2 children, co-presented and even ran their own talk show together. However, Richard has revealed that before their 1986 wedding, he underwent a 2-week test where he eventually realized that Judy was in fact the one. Speaking on Busted star Matt Willis's On the Men podcast, the Good Morning Britain presenter said he took himself on a 2-week solo trip because he wanted to be certain he was prepared to become a stepfather to Judy's twin sons, Dan and Tom, from her previous marriage. Judy and I worked together for years before we even talked about the prospect of getting together, Richard told Matt. One of Judy's main concerns was obviously her kids. They, came front and foremost in any move that she might make. I remember her saying to me when it became clear that we were falling for each other and we were tentatively beginning to talk about maybe having a life together, "You've got to understand I come in a 3-pack. It's me and Tom and Dan." So I went off to Greece for 2 weeks on a kind of a solo holiday to think about it because I didn't want to rush. I didn't want to say with super confidence, "Oh yeah, it'll be fine, I'm happy to be a stepfather." I needed to know that I could deliver and that I meant it, that I really meant it. So I went away for 2 weeks and just thought, basically sat on a beach for 2 weeks and just thought quite deeply about the future and about how I felt about it. And I felt very comfortable with it. We went away for a week together, all 4 of us. We rented a cottage in Cornwall just as a little trial to see how we all got on. And it was fantastic. We had a great time. And that kind of sealed it, he said. Judy Finnegan and Richard Madeley's love story. Richard and Judy have been married for close to 40 years since meeting at Granada Television in Manchester. They were best known for being the original presenters of This Morning before they launched their early evening talk show, which ran between 2001 and 2009. The couple welcomed their first son together, Jack, and they tied the knot that same year. It's been reported that he works in talent management and that he is married to his wife, Issy. Fans were given a glimpse inside Jack and Issy's wedding back in 2021 when Jack's younger sister, Chloe, shared some snaps on her Instagram. In 1987, the couple welcomed their daughter, Chloe. The 38-year-old is somewhat better known than Jack thanks to her TV work. She's also active on social media and boasts more than 280,000 Instagram followers. From 2018 and 2023, Chloe was married to rugby player James Haskell. Away from her career in the public eye, she works as a personal trainer and fitness instructor. The Good Morning Britain host is also stepfather to Tom and Dan, Judy's twins from her first marriage to David Henshaw. For decades, Richard Madeley and Judy Finnegan have been one of Britain's most beloved television couples. The golden pair who made morning TV sparkle long before Good Morning Britain and This Morning became household staples. Their chemistry on screen was so natural, so unforced, that viewers often assumed they'd been together forever. But as Richard recently revealed in a surprisingly candid moment, their fairy tale partnership actually began with a simple 2-week test. A test that would change his life forever. Sitting on the Good Morning Britain sofa with his trademark easy grin, Richard reminisced about the early days of his romance with Judy. "We'd been working together for months," he said, his voice softening as he recalled their first meeting. "There was this spark, undeniable, but both of us were too professional to act on it straight away. We had families, jobs, reputations. It wasn't something we could just rush into." At the time, Richard was a rising star in regional TV, while Judy was already an established presenter with a sharp mind and gentle authority that viewers adored. "She was brilliant," Richard recalled. "Intelligent, funny, slightly chaotic in the best possible way. But more than that, there was a warmth about her that you couldn't ignore. I remember thinking, I could talk to this woman forever." But fate, and a long summer break, intervened. The pair found themselves both at crossroads in their personal lives, newly single and unsure about what the future held. "That's when Judy suggested something that, honestly, changed everything," Richard revealed. "She said, 'Why don't we spend 2 weeks together? Just us. No distractions, no cameras, no pretending.' It was her way of seeing if what we had was real, if it could survive outside the studio." The 2-week test, as Richard now calls it, wasn't a romantic getaway in the traditional sense. There were no luxury hotels, no beachside cocktails, no perfectly curated Instagram moments. Instead, they decided to spend it quietly in Cornwall, away from the chaos of London. "We rented this tiny cottage near the coast," he said. "It was damp, the roof leaked, and there was a constant smell of seaweed. But it was perfect. Just us, the sea, and time." According to Richard, those 2 weeks were the most revealing, honest, and terrifying of his life. "I remember the first few days were almost awkward," he admitted. "We were so used to bantering on air, to performing for an audience, that we didn't quite know how to just be with each other. But then, slowly, it happened, we settled into this rhythm. Cooking dinner together, walking for miles along the cliffs, reading by the fire. And that's when I realized, it wasn't about the glamour or the buzz of television. It was about us." He smiled, remembering one particular evening when everything seemed to click. It was raining, typical Cornwall, and we were stuck inside. The power went out, so we lit candles and opened a bottle of wine. We started talking about everything. Childhood, regrets, fears, the future. And I remember looking at her in that flickering light and thinking, this is it. This is the person I want to grow old with. By the end of those 2 weeks, there was no doubt left in Richard's mind. "I'd gone down there thinking it was just a trial run," he confessed. "But by the time we packed up the car, I absolutely knew, Judy was the one." What's remarkable is how that quiet realization turned into one of the most enduring partnerships in British television history. From This Morning to Richard and Judy, their chemistry captivated audiences for decades. "We didn't plan it," Richard said. "We never sat down and thought, let's become TV's favorite couple. We just carried on being ourselves, a bit chaotic, a bit honest, and hopefully a bit relatable." Even now, years later, the pair remain inseparable, despite the inevitable ups and downs that come with life in the spotlight. "We've had our rows like any couple," Richard admitted with a chuckle. "I've said stupid things on air," Judy's rolled her eyes at me, the usual. "But that 2-week test set the tone for everything that followed. It taught us how to be together, how to communicate, how to give each other space." What advice he'd give to younger couples today, his answer was characteristically straightforward. "Switch off your phones," he said. "Go away somewhere simple, somewhere you can actually talk. No distractions, no noise. Just the two of you. If you can survive that, you can survive anything." That advice, while old-fashioned, carries a certain Madeley logic, the kind that's made him both endearing and unpredictable on live TV. But beneath the jokes and the headlines, there's a sincerity that's impossible to ignore. "People think love is about fireworks," he mused. "And sometimes it is. But real love, the kind that lasts, it's about quiet moments. Making tea for each other in the morning. Arguing over who left the cap off the toothpaste. Laughing at something ridiculous on telly. That's what keeps you going." As the conversation wrapped up, Richard grew uncharacteristically reflective. "You know," he said softly, "that 2-week test, it wasn't just about finding out if Judy was the one. It was about finding out who I was when I was with her. And the answer was simple. I was the best version of myself." It's a sentiment that seems to define Richard and Judy's entire relationship. Two people who brought out the best in each other, on and off camera. Their marriage, now spanning more than 3 decades, has weathered fame, criticism, and the relentless churn of public life, yet it remains anchored in the same quiet truth that began in that seaside cottage. For viewers who grew up watching them, the revelation feels both nostalgic and comforting. A reminder that even in the whirlwind of celebrity, some love stories are refreshingly ordinary at heart. "People always ask what our secret is," Richard concluded with a grin. "There isn't one. Just 2 weeks, a bit of rain, and a lot of talking." And maybe that's the real takeaway from the Madeley Finnegan story, that sometimes the greatest love tests aren't the grand gestures or dramatic ultimatums, but the simple, everyday moments where you discover that being together just feels right.